Hey there, it's Silver. This is Lightyear Frontier. So this is the very, very rare example of a non-combat mech game. A game where you do indeed have a mech and a lot of the gameplay centers around it, but you don't actually use it to murder things. Instead, this is sort of like a life sim kind of concept, not a survival game. You don't have to worry about hunger and thirst and sleep or anything like that, although there are benefits to sleeping. This is more like a sort of Stardew Valley-ish kind of concept, but without other NPCs for the most part. They do, I mean, there are a few others actually, but you mostly interact with them through like prompts and stuff. They're not like in the world for you to talk to every day and give gifts to and stuff like that. This is not that sort of experience. Overall, what it really reminds me of is if you took a sort of Subnautica-esque survival game, but made it very casual and chill. It's kind of like that. It's that similar kind of gameplay loop, except there's no major survival elements. Instead, it's all about like base building and growing crops and things like that. So the idea is you crash land on this planet. There is a sort of saucy AI in orbit that is yelling at you, and you gotta figure out how to survive on this place, or at least sort of what is happening here, because the more you explore, you start to find there's some interesting things going on. This planet has been sort of corrupted by this purple goop, and the more of it you clear out, the more of these ancient ruins and stuff start to light up, and a lot of these ruins have some really interesting implications because humanity has only been in this area for like 200 years. So the fact that there are things here from an intelligent race that's clearly a lot older does imply that at least at some point this planet had some intelligent life on it. Now when you arrive, there is life here. There are some alien creatures about, and they're all really cute and super adorable, but you can actually befriend them if you want to, and you don't have to worry about them attacking you. So this is kind of the stuff I'm talking about when I mention like a more casual Subnautica kind of experience. So you'll reassemble your mech and start exploring this planet, and the planet is made up of various different biomes, each one being corrupted in different ways, and you'll need various different pieces of equipment to actually uncorrupt them and start them giving you resources and things. The loop here is kind of interesting because it's something that you've probably seen before, but presented in a bit of a different way. Basically, every biome has its own different resources that it can give you, and each one is sort of part of a ladder of more and more exotic resources that should be climbing to make better and better stuff. But the way that it works is the biomes themselves don't actually give you these resources at first while they're corrupted. First, you've got to clear them out. But different ones will require different amounts of upgrades to clear out successfully, and some of those upgrades will require different resources. So basically there is a more specific order of biomes that you're able to actually go through, and part of the game is sort of the puzzle of figuring out what you can craft based on the resources you currently have access to, and what those tools will give you access to if you use them in different environments. The mech has 5 different tools that are all upgradable. You've got the pick saw thing, which is pretty cool. This is your main gathering tool. You can use it as like a pile bunker to pick apart stones and coal and ores and stuff to gather all that sort of thing. And then you can also use it to swipe with a saw-bladed edge to take down trees and stuff for wood. And then you've also got a giant vacuum cleaner that actually looks like a sort of retro 1950s vacuum cleaner. And you can use this to suck up plants to either harvest them if you're growing them, or to get seeds from them if you find them in the wild. You can also use them to suck up noxious weeds, which is one of the things that corrupts areas that you'll need to get rid of to make them resource-bearing. And you can also use it to suck up water into your tanks, because the third tool is an irrigation cannon thing, a big water cannon. And you use this to water your plants, as well as to wash away the purple corrupting goop and stuff to clean out different areas. And then the other 2 tools are for planting stuff. You've got a seed planting cannon that you use to plant seeds in your various plots to actually grow crops. And then you have a sprout planting cannon that's much larger, and this is what you use to plant things like full-size trees and stuff. So the game does have a very significant base building focus, where you will get a basic tent at first that acts as like a sort of makeshift home, and whenever you place a home down, a homestead as it's called, it'll have a little sort of white square around it that shows you what the radius for the homestead is. And this is because when you sleep at night, you get a bonus depending on how decorated this area is. And more advanced homesteads will have different tiers of bonuses they can give you, but each homestead will also have a larger radius, and the later tiers of bonuses will require more and more decoration to obtain. You'll also get a lot of different blueprints and stuff as you gather materials. This is one of those games where gathering a new material unlocks several blueprints just by holding it. And then as you refine that material into better stuff, like say turning iron ore into iron ingots, for instance, then you'll get even better blueprints from that. This is the kind of game that really encourages you to be quite organized while you're playing it, because one of the main things is you have a bunch of different stations that you'll craft to refine materials and stuff into better forms to use in more advanced blueprints and the like. And these are different kinds of machines that do their thing whenever you're not around, so you just need to sort of spool them up and set them going. But you can craft these sort of wooden shed-like things that actually cause any machines placed in them to have a higher efficiency, so that sometimes they'll create multiple products when they normally would have just made one. So you can stretch your resources out a bit more and get better stuff that way. So you are encouraged to have a sort of machine section to your base where you have a bunch of these like shed lean-to things, and you can put all of your various machines within them and keep them as efficient as possible. There are quite a few different kinds of machines that you'll learn how to make. You'll mostly be learning new ones whenever you get a major new like refined resource. And of course, each one of these machines does tend to have several different recipes that they can create depending on what you have available. And one thing I do like is that even the early game versions of these machines actually remain useful throughout the entire experience. Like the oil press, which is just a basic thing that allows you to make plant oil at first, from basic plant fibers that you get from sucking stuff up in your vacuum and chopping down trees. But you will also be growing all kinds of different crops, and you can plop any of these crops into this press and you'll get a special oil that is unique to that crop. And you'll find that a lot of your later upgrades and stuff need various specific oils like this, so it gives you a reason to grow a large number of different things, increasingly exotic things, and also have several of these presses going all the time because they never lose their usefulness. To make use of all this stuff, you'll eventually make an upgrade station that allows you to actually park your mech in it, and then you can do things like take the physical parts like the arms, legs, and engine and sort of cockpit canopy off and replace them with other ones. There are various different ones you can find. They are all cosmetic as far as I can tell. None of them have stats or anything, but they all look very different. But more importantly, you can also use it to upgrade various aspects of your mech, from things like your inventory capacity to the power of basic tools so that they can harvest more exotic resources and get rid of more tough corruption, or even stuff like making your water cannon shoot farther so that you can use it a bit easier, or upgrading the range of your vacuum. You also have jump jets on your mech, which is pretty cool. At first, they don't take you very far, but they are still useful to have. But this is another one of the things you can upgrade. You can change the legs for stuff like better speed for sprinting and better jump jets so that you can have more airtime. So there are quite a lot of different upgrades for you to actually go through, and this is the most of what you're going to be spending your resources on, aside from, building up your base at first. A lot of the more exotic stuff is going to be spent on various resources, and the impetus to make all of this more advanced stuff using more and more resources and things is to get access to higher tiers of upgrade. You can also eventually get a merchant platform that calls down a merchant every day in the morning for you to trade with, and there is actually money in this game. The main way you're going to make money at first is just by selling things to the merchant, especially like higher tier refined resources and things. They tend to be worth a lot more. And there is even a little bit of an economy system in the game where different things are worth different amounts depending on the day, and it shows you in your PDA and stuff like what is up and what is down at that time. And the merchant is pretty important because this is where you're going to be getting pretty much all of the blueprints for decorations and stuff. So if you want to start getting new mech parts and stuff, they also sell those. But if you want to start decorating your farm and having a lot more stuff around your homestead to increase its tier and stuff like that, this is where you're going to be getting all of that. Another thing you can do while you're exploring around, by the way, is actually befriend some of the wildlife, like I mentioned earlier. And you need a fodder oven for this, and different types of crops can create different sorts of fodder, and different creatures around the planet need different sorts of fodder to be satisfied. So you have to get out of your mech because they're understandably pretty afraid of it. They won't come near you if you're stomping around in a giant robot. But once you get out of it, you can walk up to them and actually give them the various kinds of fodder that they need, or find nests of these creatures and give fodder directly to the nest. And you can befriend them that way. And when you do this, they tend to dig up resources for you to take back to your mech. And there are also these things which are precious, and I love them, and I want to protect them at all costs. And you'll also find some ruins to explore, like I mentioned, and these are pretty cool because they have some neat architecture to them, and they have a bit of a theme, like each one was something, and you'll find these purple crystals that you can break. A lot of these you'll have to get out of your mech to go and get. You don't need to for some of them, but a lot of them are going to be in areas that you can't really realistically bring your mech, so you do have to explore on foot in a lot of these areas. And once you find all of these purple crystals, you can break them and get artifacts, and each site has a certain number of artifacts for you to find. Once you find them all, Piper, the AI I mentioned, will tell you what this place used to be, and then you will also unlock a new blueprint for decoration, and these are sort of like ancient technology related blueprints. So while you're exploring various areas of the planet, and then once you clear out the corruption by sucking up all the weeds and spraying away all the goop, then you will eventually make it bear resources. Once you have cleared a place out, you'll get a little cutscene that plays the next time you sleep, and then after that, the resources will start to spawn in each area. And like I said, each biome has a different list of resources that you can get from it. A lot of them spawn in these sort of round dirt crater-looking things. They can be stuff like iron or copper or aluminum, coal, and all sorts of things like that, and various kinds of crystals and more exotic stuff for making lenses and some of the things you'll need later on for higher tier upgrades. And then also eventually there does seem to be a sort of like limited main quest where there are specific main objectives aside from the restoration of the planet that you're going to want to complete. And this currently culminates in the building of a radio tower, and then eventually a bounty board back at your base that allows you to accept jobs. And this is the main way you're going to make money moving forward, where people will request specific things and pay you a good amount for actually delivering them on time. There will usually be 3 different requests every day that you can cycle through and make a fair amount of money, especially ones that involve growing lots of a certain kind of crop. Those tend to pay really well. In terms of the early access, there is a pretty significant amount of content already. There's a lot of biomes to go through, and a pretty significant selection of upgrades to work towards, which I appreciate. I was also really surprised and impressed with the amount of decoration items that you can find and craft, and with the amount of different mech parts that you can find, even though they are all cosmetic because there aren't really stats that you could give the mech since there's no combat or anything. They do all look very different, and I appreciate just how many of them there are. I wasn't expecting there to be that much visual variety yet available in the early access, but yeah, it launched with quite a bit. In terms of stuff that I would like to see, for one, I would like to see more visual customization of your tools. Right now they all look the same no matter what, so even once you've upgraded them and stuff, there are no visual elements to the upgrades, so I would like to definitely see them change as you upgrade them to show that you're progressing. I would also maybe like the ability to customize them a little bit, because you can customize your mech so much. It would be cool to be able to change the looks of your tools, or maybe paint them like you can the rest of your parts and stuff. Obviously, another thing that the game could definitely benefit from would just be more stuff that you can refine and create, more advanced steps and side grade stuff that allows you to just widen the gap of different things that you can create, and possibly the different upgrades that you can obtain, just a sort of a wider array in general. Another thing that I would like to see for sure is customization of the interior of your mech, because right now all the customization is outside, but you do have a cockpit and it is quite cozy in there and I like it. So it would be cool to be able to change it around. Right now you have just a couple of simple gauges and stuff that don't actually do anything, they're just for visual flair. I think it would be cool to be able to add some functional upgrades to the cockpit of your mech optionally to change how it works. Give yourself like a resource radar or a wildlife radar, or maybe a little gauge that shows how much your inventory is filled up and stuff like that. I think it would be cool to have some actually useful gauges and stuff to make your cockpit even more cozy, a little bit of visual customization for the interior. But aside from that, and just the obvious wish to see more content as it develops, I think it's in a pretty good spot. It launched with a really good amount of stuff. It also feels quite polished, which I think is important for a game like this. I haven't had anything majorly break or any sort of weird, crazy bugs happen. It definitely feels quite stable and polished so far for what's currently available. So I like what I see so far, and I'm definitely interested to see where it goes from here. I think there's a lot of places that you could take a game like this because of that mech aspect. That's pretty cool, and I'm excited to see where they go with it. So I'll put the link in the description below this video to the Steam store page for Lightyear Frontier if you guys wish to check it out yourselves. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.